Welcome to the Press Box. I'm Ryan Thorburn, joined as always by Steve Mims. We're coming to you from San Antonio ahead of the Alamo Bowl on Saturday between Oregon and TCU. Steve, they just had the press conferences a moment ago. TCU's defense, Oregon's offense. That's kind of the matchup that Duck fans want to see for sure. What were your takeaways from what those two units had to say?
Yeah, in particular, I thought, TCU, Josh Carraway made it pretty clear. He said this isn't going to be a 100-point game. Everybody out there seems to have this idea this is going to be, 50-40, something that we've seen from TCU and Baylor in the past. He said, these defenses are particularly, he said, theirs going to be better than you think. This isn't going to be that high scoring of a game. TCU's defense, it's interesting. They lost a lot of guys early in the year. They're really undersized. I mean, they've got some 205-pound linebackers, a bunch of safeties converted over, even Carraway on the ends, 250 pounds. But, they all talk about how the system works for them. It's pretty versatile. By moving some safeties to linebacker when they go into a nickel package, they can move those guys back. So I think TCU's defense feels pretty confident. But a couple of times when people asked them about Oregon's offense, they said, yeah, they're fast, they're high-powered, but we've seen a lot of that in the Big 12. So I think TCU feels like they've seen some of Oregon, and they'll be ready when they match up on Saturday.
Well, it's certainly easy to try and convince yourself of that, but when you sit here and are talking to a healthy Vernon Adams, Royce Freeman, a healthy Tyler Johnstone, and the list goes on, I think, it's easy to see why Las Vegas thinks this is going to be a high-scoring game and why I think the TV ratings are going to be pretty good for this game outside of the New Year's six-day bowls. I think this is the best matchup. Speaking of Vernon Adams, what kind of do you think of the season he's had? Obviously, he got in late, was injured during that 3-3 start, but these last 6 games, he's been lights out, and I think he wants just to show the nation that his move up to Oregon from Eastern Washington was worth it.
Yeah, and I think he's shown that, but, like you say, a lot of people may not have noticed around the country, seen the USC game and the Stanford game and some of the things they've done. This will be a nationwide audience, and for Vernon, in terms of going on and in terms of the NFL, this is kind of a chance to his last audition in a game to kind of show what he can do leading an offense. And you're right, just the scale of Oregon's season, Vernon Adams healthy versus Vernon Adams not healthy, it's ridiculous how different this season looks, but the 6 games since he came back have been impressive just with the numbers he's putting up.
The vibe here is really interesting compared to last year. We were at the Rose Bowl and then obviously the national championship. There was so much attention on these guys, so much activity. They were doing so many different things around Los Angeles and so many media things with the national championship. That's kind of low key, I think, this Alamo Bowl, even compared to 2 years ago when it was Mac Brown's finale and all the Texas media was around. What's kind of the vibe? I think both teams are pretty focused. Their coaches are pretty experienced at this. I think both teams will be ready to play.
Yeah, it does seem like from a media standpoint, it's about 80% Oregon people here. I don't know if it's because, TCU's in Dallas area and the Cowboys season's still going on or what, but it seems like the media is pretty much dominated by the Oregon crew right now. And yeah, it sort of does have that feel of this game that, is sort of I think it's a big one for both teams. I think the winner probably finishes in the top 10. For TCU, if you can finish with wins over Baylor and Oregon, that's a huge deal. And Oregon, if you go from that 3-3 and finish with 7 in a row, including Stanford, USC, and TCU, it's a great resume going into next year. So I think both of them see that this could really cap what would be, for TCU and Oregon, both ranked top 4, top 5 beginning of the season. They're not in a New Year's Six bowl, but I think this will at least give them something to come out of it with a big win.
Yeah, if the Ducks win, that'll be 8 consecutive seasons with at least 10 wins. So I think Alabama's the only team on one of those streaks right now currently. So tomorrow we'll have Oregon's defense and TCU's offense up here, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. And thanks for tuning in.